I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, a guest who wrote an open letter to the President of the United States, who is an economic genius, one of the top economic people in the world, because he's worried about keeping things closed down because of this Wuhan virus overreaction. I think I would safe to call it. We're doing more harm than good. It is Martin Armstrong of ArmstrongEconomics.com. Martin Armstrong, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
You wrote this open letter. You've counseled top people around the world, including here in the United States, but you decided to write an open letter just recently to the president about warning him about shutting things down for too long and that awful things would happen. We'd go into a 13-year period, melees, economic downturn, whatever you want to call it. Why did you feel so important to write an open letter now?
Well, for two reasons. One, we are facing a very, very serious crisis. I mean, these people that have been advocating shutting down the economy is really, it's just, I think it's largely still the climate change contingency merged with socialism. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. You have now one of the UN agencies coming out, oh, this is an opportunity for us to rebuild the economy from the green on up. They were cheering that, crude oil went to negative. Even, our darling AOC, who's one of the best entertainers from Congress, she came out and said, oh, now we can create a lot more jobs with the new energy, although she doesn't realize how many people she'd put out of work otherwise. But, by going public with it, also, we have clients absolutely everywhere around the world. So they have used it themselves. I mean, it's been read in Parliament in England and Canada. It's been submitted to governments all over the world. So that was more or less the impact it was trying to get, that these people are absolutely insane. And I'm convinced that the WHO is really just in cahoots with them, because it's not even citing studies or anything. There's been no study on this. They just came out and said, oh, well, gee, everybody really doesn't have antibodies. How do they know? Have they even conducted any survey? No, they have not. In Germany, the tests have shown more than 50% of people do have antibodies. So, I mean, this is just, it's scaremongering, and there's another agenda going on. And it really is the WHO is part of the UN, and the UN has been, all for this climate change. And this is what their objective has been: shut down the world economy, bankrupt everything you possibly can, and then rebuild from scratch. And this is what even their one site, I think it's it's listed on our blog, but I think it's called, the GFC or something, and they are right on their own site. And I quoted it. They said, oh, this is a great opportunity to start over. I mean, they have no regard for what they're doing to people. After about one more week of this, the average family is broke. They don't have the funds to keep going. So the letter I wrote was, look, this is ridiculous. I mean, you have the Democrats blocking small business loans. They said, oh, we should just give the money to the people. All right. So what are you going to give them? $1,200, enough to buy food for a month, but then they lose their job? When they lose their job, they're also losing health care. Nobody's looking at this issue. Then you have all these people who work part-time. They're not even entitled to unemployment. The devastation in the economy is unbelievable. And I mean, look, our computer is very well known. I mean, just about all the intelligence agencies look at it, because it's the only fully functioning artificial intelligence system in the world. And it monitors everything global. And it was coming out with a forecast saying that unemployment was going to rise dramatically and go back and retest the Great Depression highs. Now, I didn't even believe it. I mean, I'm thinking that's never happened like that. Even the Great Depression took 3 years to get to 25%. We passed 13% in the first month. And, I don't, look, the computer picks up patterns and it's looking at everything and it's correlating everything globally. So it's not biased. It's not, there's no conflict of interest with it, which is why a lot of, the major institutions rely upon us, because they know it's not my personal opinion. And they're always like, what's the model saying? And we need something today that actually monitors everything in the world. And this is what's going on. And from the very beginning, I said, this is not right. Something's wrong. All right. And as this keeps going, it's just unbelievable. I mean, we have all the diseases in the model as well. And no virus has ever lasted really more than 6 to 8 months. I put out a blog on it showing that SARS, etc., and the computer is projecting it should peak out globally by April, May, and ideally the week was April 6th. I mean, the computer's never been wrong. Here we have all these people that are, oh no, it's going to last 18 months and we should be all locked down to the end of the year. There is no historical precedent for any virus ever lasting 18 months. It just does not happen. All right, these things come during flu seasons, cold weather, not warm. So yes, it will be back in the fall, but that doesn't mean we should shut down the world economy and everybody starve to death. I mean, food prices are already starting to rise. Farmers have had to, plow under crops because they can't even get them picked. Food is rotting in warehouses because they can't get it out. Migrant workers can't move. I mean, in Europe, the migrant workers are from Poland. They would go down to Spain. Forget that. I mean, all your food supplies are starting to run out. And now they're also shut down the production of CO2. We need CO2 to make water clean. They don't talk about this. Everything's CO2 so evil. No, we need it for that. They also use it to make beer and soda. All right, but we don't want to talk about these things. So I wonder, okay, fine, when you're going to get, Joe Sixpack out there starting to really riot because he can't get any beer because of these people. So there's a lot, behind this, and it's just unbelievable. And the question that I think is very common sense, I mean, I'm down here in Florida. If 100 people died in St. Pete, would they shut down the economy in New York? Everyone knows the answer is no. All right. So why is it? Because if something is in New York, the entire country has to be shut down. This is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. There's another agenda going on here, and it's really, honestly, just look at the UN, look at what's coming out from the WHO, and you'll see it's all about deliberate destruction of the economy to rebuild it as a green economy, the new Green Deal starting all over again.
How can we come back from this at this point? It looks like I'm sorry, you said a mouthful in the first 10 minutes. Even I'm kind of blown away. Okay, so they're talking about wanting to open the economy by May 1st, May 4th, whatever. Is that sufficient to get things going again? Is there some light at the end of the tunnel if we can get this thing open in early May or end of April? Some states are opening up next Monday.
Yes, I mean, we can get things going, but there's still going to be a decline into 2022. You have, I mean, even if you look, you can probably go on Google and find out. All right, after everything was lifted in China, people still weren't going out to restaurants. You have psychologically terrorized people. And, down here in Florida, fine, everything's open except for, restaurants and shopping malls. But you go into the food store, whatever, everybody has these plastic sheets up now. it's like you're going into a bank and there's a bulletproof panel between you and the cashier. I mean, it's just these things are not going to disappear. I mean, we are now going to be psychologically tortured like this, and it's going to be, we're not coming back from that. So you've broken one of the critical ties of civilization. That's where everybody comes together. We all benefit by a synergy which emerges from everybody working together. You've broken that. People walk, down the street, and if somebody doesn't have a mask on, oh my God, they want to call the cops. I mean, this is absurd. So I don't see the economy coming back. Yes, we're going to see new highs in the stock market after this thing probably bottoms out near term, but that's not going to be a high from a standpoint of a boom. It's going to be a high from a standpoint that governments are going broke everywhere. You don't want to buy their debt, and you got to park your money someplace. I mean, in Germany, you've got 3 of the major municipalities on the verge of bankruptcy. You have the same thing here. I mean, these morons who are running local governments and states, oh yeah, let's shut down. Okay, fine, you shut everything down. Where is your tax revenue going to come from? They can't think of anything beyond the next step. I mean, most states rely upon sales tax. You've shut it down. So you're looking at they can't pay their pensions. You're looking at major crises. I'd stay away from all municipal bonds. Telling you right now, get out of anything you have. You don't want any government debt. This is going to really push the debt bubble over the cliff.
How about bailing out? Hold on, I gotta write this down. I'm sorry. How about bailing out in this latest bill to fund the small businesses to replenish it? They're going to bail out Illinois. I mean, Illinois is getting a massive bailout. Evidently, I don't know. I'm guessing, but you tell me that they know they're going to have to raise taxes to the moon. They'll lose control, Democrat control of the state. There'll be a tax revolt. They're getting billions and billions of dollars, Illinois, for their pension system, state and local, and all over the place. They're bailing them out billions and billions of dollars. What do you think about that? I mean, just Illinois.
This is the problem. Illinois has a particular crisis in the sense that their Supreme Court ruled that, that they cannot renegotiate any of the pensions. So, I mean, I don't see that as being even long-term viable. At some point, the spigot's going to have to be turned off. But Illinois is the classic basket case of how bad government really can be managed. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Property values have been declining because, I mean, they've had net migrations out. I mean, you have to be insane to buy any property in Illinois. And if you still have it there, I mean, good luck in trying to sell it.
How bad do if you were saying that evidently a lot of states are going to continue this? I mean, there's going to be some states open up May 1st, or 1st of May. But how bad can this get? Can things get bad in the Northeast? I mean, they're charging $100 a truck to go across the George Washington Bridge. A trucking friend of mine that range loads. He says $100 in, $100 out. And you go up to the Northeast, no place to park your truck, and they want to fine you, and they want to dock you, and they want to charge you $100 just to go into New York City. Are there some places that are going to do way worse than others?
Yeah, I mean, look, New York. I mean, doing this to trucking going into New York is insane. I mean, you cut off all trucking into New York, and they don't have the food supply. People are going to starve within 30 days. I mean, again, this is what I mean is that you have politicians looking at, oh, gee, I lost this revenue. Well, let's get it from the truckers. They still want to come in. No concept of what they're doing. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you have states that are pulling people over, and then they want all the to check the licenses of everybody. And if they don't have the same address, the fine is $500. I mean, and the states that are the worst are the ones that are Democrat. I mean, I don't know. I think in part it's politics. They think that if they make it really bad, people will vote against Trump. Well, they're likely more to find themselves thrown out of office.
Wow, wow, wow. And how bad at this point we've crossed the Rubicon? Is that right? At this point, they've already made it bad. They can only make it
Yeah.
worse. Explain.
Coming back, like I was saying before, if you look at what has happened in Wuhan, although they lifted all the restraints and everything, people are just buying food and eating home. Restaurants are actually going bankrupt. People aren't returning. You're finding the same thing like with movies and things of this nature, just staying home and watching streaming. So we're looking at a lot of service sort of industry. You have Neiman Marcus, looking at filing bankruptcy. The shopping malls this last December was the first time they were actually down compared to online sales. So they had already started tipping over. This is now pushing them off the edge. So you're looking at, we have an economy that's 70% service oriented. So you're looking at unemployment is just going to continue to rise. You've wiped out a lot of the industry. I mean, there was a particular, Indian restaurant that I enjoyed a lot, and as well, I would still try to support them, maybe get, takeout or something. They closed. A lot of these small businesses, they don't have the money to last more than a month. They just don't. And then what do you do with all, most of the, and, unless you're in a high-end restaurant, but most of the rest of them are like, college girls. You go to the shopping center, it's for food store, it will be maybe the boys there packing the bags and stuff or loading the shelves. But, I mean, you're wiping out waitress jobs. What about, hair salons and things of this nature? I mean, it's just the devastation economically with this move is unbelievable. And the number of people that have died is minimal, more than twice that died just from the flu. So there's no logical explanation to have done this. The study they used wasn't even peer reviewed. The guy that came up with this whole theory, we should be locking everybody down, has admitted his model was wrong. It's just, Trump has actually, I found it quite interesting how Trump has used it against them and saying, well, you were all projecting 2 million Americans were going to die. It's only 30,000, so I've done a great job.
What would you tell let's get down to what would you tell the president right now? If you were sitting in the office, and you have counseled for presidents and prime ministers and people all over the world still do. If you could sit there and tell the president, just you and him, you're in the Oval Office, look at the camera like you're looking at Donald Trump and say, here's what you need to do now.
Well, I don't know if there's anything that's going to repair it. What he needs to do is open up instantaneously. I think he needs to do an actual appointed special prosecutor to investigate who started this, because I'm telling you, all the information I have is pointing to it is a deliberate, intentional movement to harm the economy. And I mean, these people are elitists. I mean, you take Bill Gates, he was on national TV in Germany saying, everybody should remain locked down until he comes up with a vaccine. You're talking about 18 months. Do you realize, I mean, we've also put in, behavioral economics and studies, and I put out a forecast a few weeks ago. I said, after week 4, we will start seeing protests. After week 6, it will turn to violence. We hit week 4. We got protests already all around the country. Facebook trying to, remove people from denying their First Amendment right, acting more like Stalin. Anybody that wants to post something on Facebook, oh, let's all get together to go exercise our First Amendment rights, they're removing it. So, I mean, Facebook is definitely acting more Stalinistic. I mean, very anti-American. So what's the agenda here? It's to basically suppress us, destroy the economy, and then I think they originally, a lot of the Democrats, because if you look at them and the left-wing newspapers, are so anti-Trump, and they want to blame every death on him. So they've, I'm not saying that they, contrived it, but they've jumped on this bandwagon trying to use it for political gain. That's just not right.
Is that going to backfire in November?
I think so, because we're still looking at the computer shows the prospect that the Democratic Party will end up splitting. And I think you have these excessive people that have, no matter what happens, they just want to always turn it into politics. I mean, 9/11, the country came together. Not this time. No way. So there's serious implications going on here, and it definitely has been a political coup. There were some documents that came out of Portugal which actually kind of highlighted a lot of it, and that they were after Trump in the United States, Johnson in Britain, Netherlands, and Germany. And basically, if they could take those 4 down, then the world would be much better, and they would be able to have social programs, etc. Because Germany and Netherlands have been fighting the Corona bonds. They don't want to see the money go, have their cash floating down to Spain, etc. I had a friend in Spain, locked down, was just visiting there, locked down for 5 weeks, not even allowed outside to take a walk. And now they're saying that, the beaches should remain closed for the entire summer, and talking about extending a lockdown to the end of the year. Why? It's absurd. So it's clearly political, and they're trying to break the back of Germany and Netherlands and give more power to federalize Europe. And that's going to, there's more risk of this thing, of the euro completely collapsing at this stage because of this.
Whoa. And so you would tell the president, you're simply open it up now. Open it all up right now.
It has to be opened up instantaneously. I think he has he doesn't want to use it, but he actually has the power to open up the entire country. I know that, like, a lot of people are saying, oh, no, it's really the states and governors. I mean, I wrote a piece on this. It's the Commerce Clause, all right, which governs. They have no legal authority to shut down the economy, period. They cannot do that.
Wow.
And
so all these governors are breaking the Constitution.
Sure. And then you have another clause in the Constitution, which is called the Supremacy Clause. Now, they used that to break up, the racist things back in the 60s, stopping busing and things of this nature. The states tried to pass their own law, and this is the way we're going to do it. And the Supremacy Clause decimated that. Forget it. If that wasn't there, we would still have, separations and everything else. So this is the same thing. The Commerce Clause prohibits interference with interstate commerce, period. And that was to prevent the states from competing against each other, putting tariffs, New York putting tariffs against any products coming from Pennsylvania, et cetera, almost like countries. So the Commerce Clause prevents that. We have now you have people like Facebook trying to suppress our freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to protest. I mean, that's only going to lead to violent protests. So it just does not exist. All right. I think Trump did a political, real brilliant move. He said, look, it's on the governors. So that's good. He says, let them deal with it, because I think he knows that there are protests coming up all over the place. And like I said, New York certainly would not shut down if 100 people died of the flu in St. Pete, Florida, or Montana, or Utah. They would ignore it. Oh, but New York gets sick, so the whole country has to shut down? This is just not right. It doesn't even make common sense.
The Fed balance sheet, I want to hit a couple of economic things that I'd be remiss if I did not. I want to talk about the Fed balance sheet, gold, silver, defaults in the real estate market. Let's start with the Fed balance sheet. It went from $3.7 trillion, because this is what they say and we can't audit it, but $3.7 trillion in September of 2019 to 6.2 or $3 trillion right now and growing. What do you think about that?
Well, people don't quite understand. I know you get a lot of people saying, oh, that's hyperinflation, whatever. It's not. What you have to realize is that the value of everything else, stock markets, real estate, etc., that's the value of the country. All right. As that has collapsed, all right, if your house was worth $1 million, now it's only worth 500,000. So you lost equity, you lost capital. All right, it's not printing money, but this is what is the problem. Everything in the economy is leveraged. You buy a mortgage, have real estate with a 30-year mortgage, etc. Everything's leveraged.
Car loans.
So
yeah, student loans.
What happens is, when you get into a crash like this, all right, the Fed can increase the money supply, double it, triple it. It's still deflationary. Why?
And that's why the dollar is. Hold on. That's why I was looking at the dollar before I came on, because I wanted to know this, because I want you to ask me, what's the dollar? It's 100 on the Dixie, right? And so I'm thinking, why isn't the dollar going down? And this is why, because you get this deflationary, all these rents not being paid and leases, and they're forecasting 30% of mortgages not being paid if this goes on through summer. This is your deflationary moment. So what does the dollar do? It stays high, right?
Yes, because what happens is, as assets decline, all right, the purchasing power of the currency rises.
All
right.
So you're not going to see the dollar fall, at least yet.
No. I mean, look, when
holding cash is a good thing.
Yes, the cash is king, not trash.
Ray Dalio. Yeah.
Yes. So the issue here is, when does hyperinflation take place? That's only when people lose confidence in the government. All right. We're not at that stage yet. That will come when you start seeing, munis collapsing, Europe breaks apart, they're relinquishing their debts, defaulting. Now you start saying, wait a minute, I don't trust government. All right. That's when the capital then shifts. All right. That's when the currencies will decline. The currency value is not its gold reserves or anything else. It's the total capacity of the people to produce something. All right. That's why China, Japan, and Germany were all able to rise to the top without gold reserves, but their people produced. All right. You have countries with a lot of gold, Russia, that did not. Why? Because the corruption prevented the people from producing. So you have to look at it from a more realistic standpoint. That's what Adam Smith basically was talking about, the invisible hand. All right. If I grew, wheat or something, and you made a saddle, we both sold it to a Frenchman, we both returned with gold. So he was arguing against the physiocrats, which said only agriculture is wealth. And he said, no, the wealth of a nation is everything. And that's very true. And so people, have lost a lot of money with the gold bugs, etc., because they don't understand it is not a one-dimensional situation. It's not money supply up, currency down. That's not true. All right. If you're dealing with the currency that's the leading currency of an empire, all right, everybody else is using it. So part of the reason the Fed can increase the money supply and we don't see any effect here is because it's being absorbed everywhere else in the world. All these emerging markets issue debt in dollars. All right. The dollar you can issue, debt in it anywhere in the world. You can't do that in Japanese yen. You need the permission from the Japanese government. So we have no controls. Europe, all right, has never gotten off of, square one. Why? Because they never consolidated the debts. They could never compete with the United States because, oh, okay, fine, I'm going to buy some euro debt. Oh, let's see, which one do I buy? Germany, Italy, France. You're back to the way it is with the States. Yes, they all have dollar debt. Okay, fine. But are they all the same? No. You look at them based upon their credit rating. Same thing in Europe. So an institution couldn't pick up the phone and say, okay, buy me, 100 billion euro debt. It doesn't exist.
Like Illinois, the debt of Texas would be better than the debt of Illinois.
Exactly. Right. And this is the problem with Europe. All right. So you have to understand increasing the money supply, what the Fed is doing right now, it's not going to save the day because the amount of money lost on a leverage basis is probably 20 to 30 times that. All right. So they're just absolutely just, it's like trying to throw a bucket of water into the wind. It's just going to come right back in their face.
And you did say, though,
they can't stimulate enough. It's impossible to overcome this.
And you did say, so really only business can overcome this. Only opening things back up can overcome this.
Yes. We have to it's the productive, capacity of the nation, which is what is wealth. And you're destroying that. 70% of employment is with small business. I mean, the Democrats, honestly, we need to elect people that even understand common sense. Standing up there and saying, oh, well, we don't want to support any money to small businesses. We'd rather give $1,200 to the individual. So you're going to give them enough money to buy food for a month and then they lose their job? It doesn't even make common sense. These people don't understand the first thing about the economy. And they tell all these kids, oh, you have to go get a college degree or you won't be able to get a job. No problem. Just go run for Congress. No degrees necessary.
Yeah. You did say that you wouldn't have the municipal debt, government debt, get out. That's why the stock market's going to go up. Is there a play there for gold in a highly? You said that a gold long time ago. You said, hey, listen, gold is what you buy when you have a loss of confidence in government.
Yes.
And obviously, there's some. Is gold somewhat of a play? It's up $400 an ounce year over year. Would you be comfortable with some assets in gold and or silver?
Well, you have to understand it. It's probably still going to move back down, but gold has been rising mainly because of foreign demand. All right, they understand in Europe. The euro can go, and you have basically 70% of the actual physical paper dollars are held outside the country. There's such a shortage of dollars in Europe. It's just unbelievable. Because if you're going to cancel the euro, let me see, what should I do? I can't put my money in the bank. I can't own euro cash. They're hoarding dollars.
And gold.
The dollars are at a premium.
So the dollar's not going to fall out of bed anytime. Anybody thinking, oh, the dollar's going to evaporate? No. Not anytime soon.
We're not at that stage yet. We have to, when people start seeing governments failing, all right, then you start questioning the validity of a government. That's when you start saying, I don't want the cash anymore. I don't trust them. Let me move to gold assets, etc. That's where you're at. You have to do that. All right. And in the German hyperinflation, if you look, I've written about this. It didn't go into hyperinflation until December 22. Why? Because they were broke and they then issued an order of a forced loan. Everybody had to take 10% of their assets and basically donate them to the government and they would give you a bond, which defaulted. All right. At that stage, they knew government was broke. that started the hyperinflation into really 1923. So it's the same thing in Rome. I mean, I published a chart on the Roman monetary system, and you see it collapses basically 85% in just 8 years. Why? Because in 260 AD, the first Roman Empire, Roman Emperor Valerian was captured by the Persians and turned into a slave.
Huh.
Once that happened, I mean, can you imagine if Trump went to Russia and they kidnapped him and said, "That's it. You can't. You guys don't have enough power to come get him," and that's it. You know, it was such a profound disruption to the confidence of the Roman people that the currency collapsed. They started hoarding everything. That was it.
And
That's what you have to look for at that stage. When we reach that, which may be soon by like 2022 or so, that's when things are going to get really, absolutely crazy.
so for the next year or so, you would be getting a big stack of 20s if you could, and just holding on to them in case there's a credit
Yes,
crisis. Or
if
really,
you're going to, get out of like state, municipal, local, debt. If you're going to stay in, you want, to use anything, use like T-bills in the United States. Stay short term, not long term. Part of the repo crisis is, why did the Fed even get in? Is because banks were suddenly, very concerned about lending any money to a European bank. Why? Because, again, you see how brain dead politicians are. They stood up and they said, "Oh, well, gee, we can't allow money to go from Germany to bail out banks in Italy or Greece or whatever." So they started this bail-in situation. Very nice, sounds okay. What are the implications of that? Now you have exposure to Deutsche Bank. Merkel stands up, so, "Oh no, we're not going to bail out, Deutsche Bank." Now all of a sudden, if Deutsche Bank goes down and they owe you $10 billion or whatever, you're out of luck because there is no bailout. So suddenly, U.S. banks no longer wanted to lend anything or have any exposure to European banks.
wow.
So the repo market went completely nuts. The Fed had to step in and be the market maker because Citibank, the rest of them said, "Sorry, we don't want to touch this stuff."
So the repo market's going to continue, and you should be watching Deutsche Bank, which is one of my favorite banks to watch because it's the IMF in 2016 said it was the most systemically dangerous bank in the world. Do you agree still today?
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's so many others now with this coronavirus, what they've done to the economy. I don't know, I would have to go through the balance sheets, but honestly, there's probably not many of them that will survive another 30, 60 days.
So you're going to see you're forecasting a big banking crisis.
It's still ongoing, which may not really reach a peak until mid-May.
So there are many banks that won't last 30 to 60 days.
In Europe, not U.S. is not so bad. I mean, you're going to have the ones that have a lot of mortgages on their books, things of this nature. They're going to be in difficulty. That's why my letter to Trump, I said, "Look, you should immediately suspend all payments, mortgages, rents, etc. You can't deny people the income, but then leave their expenses there." And then they go, "Oh, well, the Democrats, oh, well, we have to bail them out because they got these expenses." Suspend the expenses. How much of an idiot are you? All right. Student loans. Oh, okay. I can't work, but I still got to pay the loan. I mean, if you're going to shut the economy down, prevent people from earning income, you should do the opposite side as well. But
Stop the
of course,
expenses.
they don't do that.
Yeah. And they're not doing that.
No, I mean, this is why the economy is imploding. It's part of the reason I did that letter, because I said, sometimes it's just, dealing with politicians, not Trump in particular, but I did it publicly so that it would go all around the world. And because we've got, very well connected clients everywhere. So it was actually brought into meetings in the British Parliament. The opposition in Canada used it. I mean, it's globally at this stage. So, I mean, I was just hoping that, like, maybe spark a light that you people understand you can't shut down one side of the economy without doing the other.
It's brilliant in its simplicity. And you're saying, hey, listen, you threw all these people out of work, and then you're telling them, hey, you still got to pay your student loans, your car loans, your mortgages, your apartment rent. You still got to pay all that, even though we threw you out of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. So then they can't pay. They go into default. The banks go down. I mean, it's like, really, I mean, whoever thought of this?
Anything you'd like to say in closing? I think we've covered a lot. Anything you would like to just to say in closing to the president today, right now, or to the country, to the world? What would you like to say to the world right now?
Basically, listen to what I'm saying. You can't do one side without the other.
Uh,
If you're going to continue to allow mortgages to run into the arrears, I mean, and demand people still make rent payments, etc. I mean, my view is that shut that down. Then you're going to have all those people lobbying against the politicians and say, "What are you, nuts?" This is what's going on. I mean, we have to respect there are two sides to this coin.
and you would, to remedy that, your simple solution would be open up the economy.
Yes, and I think then you still have to suspend the expenses for at least 30 days. You got to give them some time to get back.
Okay.
And I question, if honestly that's a rose-colored glass type thing, because I look at how, I mean, we're all human no matter what country we're in. And I look at the behavior of what's going on in China. And people aren't going back out. So restaurants are going bankrupt in Wuhan. You've scared people to such a degree. Will they return to the restaurants? Will they return to even shopping malls? So, like I said, you got Neiman Marcus looking at filing bankruptcy, but you've got J.C. Penney, Macy's, all these major stores on the urge, on the really the edge, and they're all on credit watches now. We're looking at a very, very profound change to our economy.
I want to talk about your seminar. You're going to have, you can't usually meet around the world 2 or 3 times a year and it sells out, but you can't do that. So you are going to come up with in early May some sort of a webinar, a seminar online where people don't have to travel. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I am concerned. I mean, we had um, a World Economic Conference we were doing in Shanghai. That was going to be May. That had to be canceled. June was going to be Frankfurt. That looks like that's going to have to be canceled. I'm concerned that our Orlando one, which was scheduled right after the elections, that will be flu season number 2. So will we end up in the same kind of nonsense again? So I'm going to do a conference, a video. We're going to be doing this by mid-May. Globally, we have been running some of them for like training sessions for smaller audiences for our clients around the world. We just did one in Frankfurt. But the guy that usually runs that small session that works for us, he's actually in Thailand. He couldn't go. So we did that one, as a webinar. The biggest problem is that we have such an international client base. I mean, we're the largest in the world. So we've got people in absolutely every continent. Even at the WECs, there's sometimes even as many as 70 different countries represented. So how to actually do a live seminar where everybody's going to have to be on different time zones is kind of difficult. So we're trying to work that out.
But you are going to have a some. It's going to be on the front page, ArmstrongEconomics.com. It's going to be on the front page. I'll link to that. You are going to have something mid-May in terms of a webinar that people can attend. It's going to be for a pay, I'm sure, or there's going to be a video or both. Correct, mid-May, sometime mid-May.
Yes.
Yeah, and just so people know, I don't make any money. This is not part of the reason why he came on. I'm not in business, but although I would be, I mean, if it's not that I don't trust Mr. Armstrong. I'm just telling you, I don't get anything for promoting this. That's what I'm saying.
No.
So anyway,
Uh,
thank you for coming on and with a nice big cold bucket of water and giving the president the message. I guess the takeaway here is, Mr. President, open the economy now.
yes. And
I mean, that's
I
what you would say. That's the one thing
give
you
them
would
30 days. 30 days as well.
But you would say that to the president.
Yes.
Open the economy now.
And give them a 30-day hiatus on any expenses to allow them to build back up.
Martin Armstrong, ArmstrongEconomics.com is the website. I'll put the link up. You can look for the seminar there on the link. Martin Armstrong, thanks for coming on short notice. I mean, I contacted you just short notice. You were gracious enough to come on and explain your letter and why you're so, why the urgency in this and how much damage it has already done and will do the economy if we stay shut down. Martin Armstrong, ArmstrongEconomics.com. Thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Well, thank you for inviting me.